Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 in 2021 My Team Career Mode, episode number 36 today for the USA Grand Prix in Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous episode, then be sure to go check that one before you see this one. This is going to be a difficult race. It was a very tough one for us in Season 1. We had that horrendous medium tire strategy, which we'll definitely not be doing this time round, but USA is historically a very tricky place on the F1 game. The AI are very consistent, and I've found myself not just to get to grips with codes, especially on this year's game, the front end just not really want to bite in too much, and obviously last season the tyre wear and just the general lack of pace on the medium versus the soft compound was a massive issue. And coming off the back of last episode, it's not just a case of us, going into this knowing it's a difficult one. It's one that, as a team we need to bounce back from, and Perez needs to bounce back from, because at Japan, that was not the same Perez we've seen for most of this season. He was despondent, not really making too many overtakes, getting stuck behind Gasly for most of the race, and it meant that Sebastian Vettel was able to come through that last, the last few laps of chaos of tyre wear and last-minute pit stops. He was able to get a podium at the end of it, even though Aston Martin have considerably taken a hit as of late on the R&D chart and are clearly not as quick as they used to be. Vettel is still pulling out these results, and he's pulled out a massive lead in the championship in terms of relative to how close it was just a couple episodes ago. You can see there he leads the way. Perez in second. We're still in third place. Obviously, it was a better race for us at Japan. Still not insane. P6. I'll take it. Obviously, we had to make do with the committing to the two-stop quite early on in the race, but it worked out for us with those late pit stops. We climbed up the order from what was like P9 to P6 in the last two laps. But yeah, this is an important race. I think we need to see Perez bouncing back in this episode, and then for us, we know it's going to be just trying to rectify and make up for the hideous Grand Prix we had at COTA last season. Like, we just need to make up for that, basically, just plain and simple, in terms of I'm still kind of annoyed at what a waste that race was. Basically, the whole race, I was sat there just being unable to do anything, really, because of how bad that tyre strategy was. But yeah, Perez's focus is down to 56, so, very, very low. Not as low as other drivers. There are some other drivers, in the even lower 50s or in the high 40s, so he's not the lowest by any stretch of imagination. But I'm just quite baffled, actually, at the focus system still, at 36 episodes in, 36 races in, it sometimes doesn't make that much sense, because apart from, a few hiccups here and there really hasn't been that much that's happened to him, or races where he's been so poor for him to lose this kind of focus. And, we've always tried to boost this focus and activity timeline, activities, and the kind of, events that come up in the HQ, in the menu here at the start of each episode. And, you can only do as much as you're given. Like, if I'm not given opportunities to boost his focus, then I simply can't boost his focus then. Obviously, we know the facilities for personnel boost the focus. We've done that to spec level 2. At the moment, we can't afford to do spec level 3. So I'm kind of scratching my head at what else the game would want us to do to try and boost that focus for him. So I'm kind of just hoping that he can maybe just luck into some more form again, because he definitely has lost momentum, I feel, in the last 2 episodes. And that's worked in Vettel's favour and worked in mine, because we've looked a lot better versus him toe-to-toe, which is obviously great news for me. But, the reality is, when Perez is at his best this season, he has been walking this. He's been carrying the team, and I've had nothing to answer for it. So we kind of, for his sake, for his championship, we need to see that Perez back today. We'll see. But in terms of, just before we get into the race weekend, we're going to talk about R&D upgrades. Of course, we finally got that spec level 3 on the aero side of things, so we can go ahead and purchase an upgrade. We have enough resource points to go for it. After some deliberation, we're going to go for the ultimate drag reduction update on the aero side. So I did have the chance to maybe click rush and rush that in time for the next episode in Mexico, which would be quite nice, because Mexico won Perez's home Grand Prix. I really hope that Perez can do well at Mexico in front of his home fans, and obviously drag reduction would be amazing around Mexico, but there's a 49% chance of failure. So if that fails, it's going to take us a further 2 races then to maybe repurchase that and get that in. So I'd rather just take the time and get that done in time for Brazil and have 3 confirmed races with the ultimate drag reduction update. So that's my thinking there in terms of not going for the rushed approach to that R&D. In terms of talking about R&D, here is then the updated R&D graph going into USA. You can see how far Aston Martin have fallen with that patch, but it kind of just shows how good and how much of a difference the AI and the focus that they've got, the momentum they've got, can make a difference, because Vettel's still out here getting podiums in a car that's dropped this low in the R&D graph on paper, and you can see what I meant, like literally what I said earlier, like halfway through the season, has happened. We've started to plateau, kind of Brawn GP style, and other teams, all the teams around us that were behind us before, have caught up to us, have overtaken us. Ferrari, McLaren, even Red Bull now are technically ahead of us with Mercedes as well, and we're actually closer to Alpine, the team we're fighting in Season 1, than the other teams that we were fighting this whole season. So obviously the ultimate upgrade on the drag reduction is going to boost us quite a fair bit on this R&D chart, but definitely for the rest of this season, it is very much Brawn GP vibes. We're trying to just hold on to our lead and hope that we can score enough points to maintain our lead and advantage in Aston Martin, and obviously vice versa for for Perez in the Drivers' Championship. But we're now going into the race weekend, Saturday around the Circuit of the Americas. The sun is pretty low on the Saturday here around USA. I've always noticed it's kind of like Australia, where it can get in your eyes a little bit, and it's kind of annoying in a way. I actually don't like when the sun's this low, because sometimes you can't really see exactly some of the marks you need to try and hit around the circuit, but it is what it is. We go on in Q1. This is one of the most annoying parts, the last corner. I always misjudge the last corner. I think it's half the sun and half the off-camber nature of that corner, but we understeer wide and get across the line, and we're just about going to make it through there. A little bit low for comfort. P15, Perez up in P5, but as usual, Q1 not really meaning too much, because Lance Stroll is top of the session, then ahead of Ricciardo and the two Ferraris, but I suspect eventually when we get through into Q2 and Q3, as we've seen, Aston Martin maybe a little bit further down the order, then right up there at the sharp end. I think gone are the days where Vettel was on pole consistently in that first part of the season. Seems like a lifetime ago, and such a different point of the season now. But now it's time to do the business. This is the real crunch time. Q2, things are getting difficult for us now, I feel, with the teams around us, McLaren, Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes even as well. All their improvements mean that it is feeling tougher to get through into the top 10 shootout. Here we are, first run done in Q2. I'm P10. Vettel is down in P11, Stroll P13. So just showing that both Aston Martins are very much struggling around this circuit. So that's good news for Perez, good news for us, I guess, but we're on the cusp, so we need to go out again and use a second set of soft compound tyres. So, when you've got, 3-4 teams better than you now in the R&D chart, that's, 3-4 times 2. So you've got, 6 or 8 cars ahead of you, basically. So we are right on the cusp. We're on the bubble. We're in that zone of P9 to P10, and we need to make sure we get through into the top 10 shootout. And our second run is better, but we're still only P10 into that Q3 session. So it's very close. I mean, I've lost a lot of time to Perez, so that's also one thing. Is again, I'm not that great around USA. I'll admit that. The AI are very good around her as well. So it's kind of a double whammy for me when we ever come to this circuit. So Perez clearly showing what the car can do, and so that's pretty promising, to be fair. Like I said, we want this kind of Perez to be back on form. The Perez that is, dragging the car from where I am so far up the order that I simply cannot do that sort of lap time that Perez is doing. But Norris there going quicker of all, Leclerc, Hamilton, Ricciardo. So that's looking a bit more like the pecking order maybe. But both Aston Martins knocked out, didn't even mention that. Vettel out in P12. That is a massive, massive deal for Perez and for us also as a team, because Lance Stroll's also out. So both me and Perez could score some solid points and make sure we solidify our position in the Constructors' Championship. But of course, for the Drivers' Championship, Perez is the one trying to chase down quite a hefty points gap now. So, I don't think Vettel will not score points from P12, but, from P12, it's quite hard to overtake around here sometimes. So, let's hope that he can maybe only go to P10, P9, and if Perez qualifies P5 and jumps up, let's say, 2 positions, that's a decent amount of points he's going to get in one race compared to Sebastian. So, liking the vibe here for his sake, but let's see what we can do now in the top 10 shootout. The second run this is. The first run was on a worn set of tyres. The second run on a fresh set, I gained 1 second. It was still only good enough for P9. So, Perez actually got bang on P5 again, so very nice there. But Leclerc is the man on pole position, but it's very nice to see a mixed up order. Ferrari, McLaren, then the 2 Mercedes cars. It's super tight though for the top 3. Look how tight that is. That is crazy. But that is just where our car is now, or where I am with the car right now, is P9. We need that upgrade to come in to get myself up to P5, and if I can get up to P5 in future, in the last couple of episodes of this season, that means Perez could probably be fighting for the front front row, basically, if you know what I mean, when we have that upgrade come in. Right now, Perez is doing a good enough job to drag the car up to P5 compared to my P9. So from here, like I said, if both of us can gain 1 or 2 positions in the race and jump up the order, that's a good haul of points for the constructors and the drivers. But there's a big but. Obviously, last season, we had an absolute mare in terms of race pace and strategy. Let's hope we can do better this time round. Let's go to the grid and make up for Season 1.
Here we are then in one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, the fabulous Austin, in the great state of Texas. The circuit itself 14 miles southeast of the city centre and home to the US Grand Prix since 2012. The latest in a long list of iconic tracks to have that honour. We have 10 turns to the left and 10 to the right here at the fantastic Circuit of the Americas. Overtaking opportunities into turn 1 and 12 at this anti-clockwise 3.6 mile track. And we should see average lap speeds of around 126 miles per hour. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Fernando Alonso, the owner driver, and Russell, Sainz, Vettel, Ricciardo, and Lance Stroll, Hamilton, Giovinazzi, Lando Norris. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Verstappen, Latifi, Mazepin, Mick Schumacher, and Yuki Tsunoda. They've taken a grid penalty. Ocon, Gasly, Eilert, and Guan Yu Zhou. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
Okay, so things have very much changed in terms of the starting grid. If you watch that grid sequence there that Crofty took us through, we've got a load of engine penalties. So I am now starting in P5. Perez is starting in P3. So he has got a great chance for maybe a podium now straight off the bat, you know, because he's not really lost positions on the opening lap usually so far in this season. Obviously, I mean, I've probably just jinxed it by saying that now. But yeah, he's got a very good chance for a podium now. It does change things also though for Vettel. Vettel now is in P8, so this race is drastically changed. It's now a case of Vettel probably has a much better chance of scoring points, so we need to hope that Perez can, you know, try and attack Bottas and Leclerc, and we need to do the best job we can to try and get Alonso maybe at the start, be a rear gunner, block off Vettel maybe, but Vettel's now definitely got a much better chance at scoring points, so a bit of a shame in that regard, but, you know, you can't help the grid penalties. Obviously, we had to take some just before, and so others now are. That's one thing. Towards the end of the season, there will be a few cases now, as you guys know on the F1 game, there will be some cases now where we get a bit of a mixed up grid on Sunday because these AI are finally having to take those penalties due to worn out engine parts. But strategy-wise, we're doing the 2-stop. We're not doing a 1-stop. We're not starting on mediums. Obviously, we can't anyway because we did qualify on the soft compound. 2-stop, soft to medium, and try and rectify and not do what we did in Season 1. But here we go then, in Austin, Texas, the 5 red lights to the USA Grand Prix. The lights are out and we're underway, and it's an absolute blistering start from Sergio Perez. Perez is into P1. What a start for him. We get swamped a little bit on the left-hand side by the Alpine of Russell. We go around the outside there at turn 1, and we've made 2 positions. We've gained. We've overtaken Leclerc and Fernando Alonso. Alonso and Leclerc squabbling way too much with each other, and we're up into P3. It's been a fantastic opening lap in opening turn 1 for our team. Sergio Perez leads the USA Grand Prix. What did I say? We needed him to turn back up. He heard me. He heard us. He heard us talking about how poor he did at Japan, and he said, no. What a start. This is the Perez we know from earlier this season. Look at this start. Oh my word. Have you ever seen a better start from an AI? That's crazy. Bottas does come back at him, but Perez takes no crap on the exit of turn 1, gets the elbows out, does not allow Bottas to go through, and he remains in P1. And to be fair to his championship rival, Vettel actually had a very decent start as well. He actually nearly got us down the inside, but we had that really good dive on the outside. Look at on the right-hand side of the screen. Look at that, 4 wide. We're on the right-hand side. We're in the correct place, and we gained 3 positions there on the Alpine Ferrari. Ferrari and Red Bull. Vettel, though, look at this commitment to get ahead of the Ferrari. Great stuff there from the 4-time world champion to get ahead. Very crucial position to get ahead. And now he's looking to try and overtake George Russell in the Alpine. But Fernando Alonso slowing up Russell and Vettel, and he's going to pit. So I think Alonso must have made some contact with the Ferrari, Leclerc, I think, and maybe us as well. But he was on the left-hand side of Leclerc. So I made contact with Leclerc, and Leclerc subsequently made contact with Alonso. And obviously with simulation damage, it looks like Alonso has picked up front wing damage. So he's coming for an early pit stop. So Vettel is up into P6 now, but it doesn't matter because Perez is leading the way. If Perez goes on to win this race and Vettel, remains in P6, let's say, for, the sake of hypotheticals, that's still a very, very good points haul. And we talked about having the old Perez back that was like, trouncing me and walking some of these races. Well, look at this. Lap number 7, I'm still in P3, but I've lost 8 seconds to Bottas and Perez. Those two are in a world of their own. Fair play to Bottas, to be fair, in the Merc. He's keeping up with Checo, but we've definitely got the old Perez back. He's flying away, and I've got nothing. I'm pulling away from Leclerc. I've kept the gap 1.3, so it's not like I'm going, insanely slow, but those two are just going so quick, and the tyre wear now is hitting me a bit too much. Lap 7, at the end of it, we're going to come in a little bit earlier than most, but I'm feeling like we can gain an advantage and maintain and grow our gap to Leclerc, Russell, Vettel by pitting now and going for the early undercut. We're not even trying to undercut anyone ahead of us. We're just trying to gain the gap to Leclerc basically and try and bridge the gap as much as we can to Bottas and Perez. But already I'm kind of sensing maybe this race is already, decided in terms of it's be a battle between Perez and Bottas for the race win in second. It's all about whether we can maintain P3 in this race. We had a lot of difficulties with race pace in season 1. So let's see. We're now on that dreaded medium tyre, but we have to use it at some point. We've swapped around the tyres. We're now going soft, medium to soft because I want to end on the soft compounder tyre. But let's see how everyone else goes. Lap number 8, only now have we got a majority of people coming in for that first pit stop. So across the line, we're going to gain some positions on the top right up into P15 now, ahead of Russell, ahead of Verstappen, and they're only just coming out of the pit lane. So we've gained a good few seconds, I would say, to Russell there, and now we're gaining up to some traffic. Guan Yu Zhou, Gasly and Tsunoda. We're going to nip one down the inside of the Williams car. We've got the overwhelming pace. The Williams on the soft is really wearing out now. Lap 9, that's quite a fair distance to go, to be fair, in my opinion, on these tyres with the tyre wear level. And so we are going to have so much better grip, and now we're squirming around trying to get the power down as early as we can as we go through the double right-hander or triple right-hander on the inside of Gasly. And that is the difference in the tyre compounds. The fresh tyre on the mediums, it's not even that fresh really, now it's a couple laps old, but still so much quicker than those guys. Tsunoda's in, Gasly stays out, bit of a wobble on the rear end there, but no bother. And we're back up now into P8 ahead of Norris, Hamilton, Leclerc there. Leclerc's lost a lot of time to us, to be fair, so that undercut's worked really well. Leclerc was 1.4 behind us. He's now many seconds behind us, so that's definitely worked out for us. But here we go now, trying to overtake Ocon and Giovinazzi. These two scrapping, yellow flags behind us as someone's retiring. We dive down the inside of Ocon, and we go for the dive on Gio, and we make a bit of contact with him. I didn't mean to dive bomb Giovinazzi. I was overtaking Ocon, and then I just, the gap opened up, and it was closing so as quickly as it opened up, basically, and had no opportunity to slow the car down. And I think we may have got some damage off that, unfortunately, because simulation damage, you know how sensitive it is now on this game, especially so versus previous games, I feel. And again, the game's not indicating any damage, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like we have that much damage. Just look at turn 1. I've taken that just fine. There's no understeer, so I can't tell. It's very hard to tell. I can't tell whether it's the tyres now going off a little bit or the front end just not biting. There's not that much understeer, to be honest. So I don't think we have damage, but I'm not too sure. We'll have to see. But whilst I was in the middle of that mishap, you may have seen George Russell retiring from the Grand Prix. So big shame for him and Alpine, who've looked so much better in previous races. And Russell was looking pretty handy for a top 5 there, but he's now sadly out. So the pecking order now, lap 13, Perez, Bottas, still the same top 2. Myself back into 3rd place. Verstappen now is in P4. He's on the soft compound, so Verstappen's gone for the aggressive 2-stop, whereas we've gone for the more kind of, simpler one. And up ahead of us, well, Perez and Bottas, they're out in front. They went on to set hard tyres, so they're not even doing a 2-stop. They're doing a 1-stop. So by the end of this race, they've already got 11 seconds on me. They're going to be miles ahead of everyone. But look at this. Bottas now is going for the lead. Hang on. Oh, this came out of nowhere. Didn't see how close Bottas was, but he's gone for it. Perez squeezed him to the left, but Bottas gets his elbows out on the left-hand side. Perez with the dive bomb to try and get back into the lead. It doesn't work, though, and Valtteri Bottas has stolen the show from Sergio Perez. That came out of nowhere. I didn't really even clock that Bottas was that close to him and had that much overspeed with the DRS, but he has, and he's up into P1. Perez down to P2. I mean, P2 would still be a very decent amount of points. 18 versus, Vettel, got P6. I think he's in P6 right now, so you get, what was that, like 8 points or whatever? 6 points. It'd still be a good haul, but not as good as, that's a 7 points you're losing for losing first place. So let's see if Perez can do anything to bounce back versus Bottas. But back to our POV then. A very mundane and boring stint 2, I would say. Lap 20, the race has already flown by because I'm going to be honest, nothing happened in that second stint for me. I was just driving around on the medium tyre, doing the best job I can. We come in now, and here is the confirmation. We did get damage off Giovinazzi. So to be honest, I'm quite impressed and happy with myself that we managed to stay in P3 and not lose too much time to the likes of Verstappen and the others around us. With that damage, we did quite well as we're now ahead of Fernando Alonso just about. We have lost time to Verstappen now, but that's because of the extra time for the pit stop, and also I went longer in the stint compared to Verstappen, so the undercut for him and then basically the front wing change helped him out. But we are now the only man in the top 10 or just outside the top 10 on the soft compound tyre, so we're going to be the fastest man on circuit versus everyone on mediums. And the hard tyre, and Verstappen now, is that smoke? Is that smoke? Yes, it is! Verstappen is retiring for the Grand Prix. It was going quite well for him. He was on to fight us for the podium, maybe. That's what we're still aiming for here, by the way. We've got a lot of cars to overtake, but that's what we're aiming for. But Bottas still leads the way then. 1.2 the gap to Perez. So Bottas has actually extended his lead. So he's looking a bit comfy now for the race win maybe here in USA. Then it's Sainz in third, Norris in fourth, Vettel in a very tasty and decent P5, He's actually done very well to just sneak up there to P5, limit the damage for his sake in his championship fight. And here we are then, P10, overtaking Lance Stroll now on lap 24. Like I said, though, the aim is still P3, where Carlos Sainz is. There's a couple of seconds to find, but we are so much quicker than everyone else, because everyone, remember, they all pit around lap 9 for these hard tyres, so you can imagine how worn out those hards are, and you can see visually how easy it is to out-traction Leclerc there with the switchback from right to left into turn 1, the exit, and then we're closing up on Hamilton, and it's a case of just trying to catch him at the right moment in time, maybe being patient on purpose, not wanting to force a move in this section. You can see I almost push him through that right and then left-hander because we're so much quicker on the acceleration, but we're going to be patient, just wait for the overtake in a straight line. We'll get DRS off him. We're able to save some ERS for later in the lap, and then we're going to go chasing after Ricciardo, Vettel, Leclerc, Sainz. I can't even remember who's ahead of us. Just anyone and everyone ahead of us. We're going to try and overtake to get back up into P3, but we overtake Hamilton in a straight line. Easy does it, so Ricciardo and Vettel are next. But we're going to be cutting this mighty fine. We're here on the second last lap, onto the last lap, and we're only just catching these guys, but Ricciardo, we're going to get him done into the last corner on the inside, up into P6, and then we've got the 3 cars we need to overtake for P3 right ahead of us. They're right there, all on the same straight. We could do this. This is going to be very close, but I reckon we could just do this by the end of the lap. But we need to get an overtake done, basically 1 overtake per sector, essentially, I think, to make sure we get this in. This is the last lap of the Grand Prix. Bottas leads the way, Perez in second, but can we make it a double aarava Archer Racing podium today at USA? We're closing up to a lapped car as well. Vettel's so slow, and look at the grip difference there around the outside to the inside. Very nice, and Vettel can't defend at all, and he has to give up the position. He's down to P6. That internally, actually unintentionally helps out Perez, obviously, by pushing Vettel down 1 more position. Ilott gets out the way. I was hoping I'd get DRS off Ilott, but for some reason I didn't get it. So we have just pure ERS here, whereas Norris and Sainz are fighting with DRS, and Norris goes for the move on Sainz on the last lap. The two former McLaren teammates are fighting for the podium, and these two fighting may just help us get in the mix, because here we are then on site. This is the last sector round the outside of Norris. Look at the grip difference here between the soft and the hard compound tyre. We're up into P4. We've now only got a couple of corners to go. Can we do this? The P3. This is going to be some amazing drive at the end of this race. This is it. The last two corners. It's going to be a last corner dive bomb. Absolutely send one to the inside. No contact made though, and we have the overwhelming grip to get through and get back to P3 and onto the podium. How about that? What an exciting end to the race on the last lap. 3 overtakes, really a lot of fun. A lot of fun, and that's done some good for the championship, I think.
So Mercedes have won it, and what a great race it was. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection, a shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
So fair play, the reigning world champion, remember, from Season 1, Valtteri Bottas wins the USA Grand Prix. Perez couldn't quite get another win under his belt. You know, he kind of deserved it after that electric start. I'm still not over that. That was almost literally like Perez heard what we were saying about him last episode and was like, no, I need to rectify this and become the Perez I used to be. What a start for him. In the end, P2 only, but it's still 18 points versus Vettel's 8. So he's gained 10 points on him. That's pretty good. That's almost half the points Vettel had over him in the lead. So there's still work to do. There's still a lot of work to do for Perez in the championship, but he's brought it back down to 9 points. That's manageable with 4 rounds to go, I think, or 5 rounds. That's still very doable for him. And you know, so I think after this second place, surely this brings his focus and momentum back into swing. So next race, his home race, he should have the momentum hopefully to do just as well. I'm hoping for his sake, because how nice would that be for him to do well at Mexico in a car that could give him a podium or a race win even. I don't know. We'll see. But constructors wise, we do well to maintain the gap to Aston Martin. 39 points, looking better there. But for our race then, we definitely made up for Season 1. That was a really fun ending. The overtaking show there, the difference of pace from the soft to those, you know, those really worn hards. Like I said, they've been on those cars since the P9 and P10, so no wonder the soft compound was so much quicker there at the end, and that's why I wanted to go on that tyre, and we got some really entertaining laps at the very end there. So guys, if you did enjoy that one, hit that like button, let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do subscribe for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.